Happy Sexual Assault Awareness Month, everyone.
Can you believe we're already in April?
No.
It's going by quick, so it's exciting, right?
Yes, it is super exciting, and we're excited to be launching SAM campaign. And we have a couple of volunteers joining us today.
Yeah. So now we have Jackie. So we'll have Jacqueline tonight. She is a volunteer that finished with Jackie last fall cohort, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, correct.
And then we have Tavika. I don't know why I can't get her on.
Can you, when you get a chance, Kimberly, can you tell us a little bit about what the volunteer advocate program at East Los Angeles Women's Center is? Um, since you are the program coordinator, give us the rundown and how
Yeah.
it works.
Let me say how biased I am. I think this program's great, right? Um, Like Danny said, I am the volunteer coordinator here at the East LA Women's Center, and Danny is a sexual assault program specialist that co-facilitates the training with me. And I can say the volunteer training and the advocates are the heart of the East LA Women's Center, right? They are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the hotline, hospital accompaniment. So I believe the work that they hey Davika,
Hi.
finally they do a great majority of the work, right? They're there on the hotline, they're there on the hospital accompaniment, and that could be 12 a.m., 9 p.m. So I am biased to say that volunteers are the heart of. We've been doing this for, and East LA Women started 48 years ago, and it started with volunteers on payphones. They didn't have cell phones, right? Um, so they were out in the community, and we still do that, right? We're still reaching our community. Now it's just tech world where it's easier. So yeah, and I'm very excited to have you all tonight join me. The volunteers are taking over our Instagram page, which is nice. I haven't had the opportunity to do it, but I'm so glad. And if you want to introduce yourself, Jackie and Tavika, go for it.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Jacqueline Ramirez. I volunteer as an advocate for the East LA Women's Center. And thank you for having me today.
Hi, I'm Devika, and I started training to become an advocate with East LA Women's Center, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity and excited to talk to all of you.
Thank you. So the reason I wanted to do this Instagram live is to bring awareness of how important it is for survivors to have the volunteer and advocate there for them, right? Especially when they're out in the hospital for their rights. Um, to kind of guide them, be that emotional support. That's what we do. That's the whole essential of being a volunteer, right? Is supporting that person in crisis, finding them those resources, providing those services that the East LA Women's Center offers, or guiding them. It's about when they're ready, and we are there to be that person to answer that phone call when they are ready to make that difference, right? I like to say we can't change the world, but we're planting a seed there. And I think that seed always grows. There might be when you could see it, and it might be later on, but it's always there. And I think that's the great thing about the volunteers, that they're able to do that.
Yes, it is. And if you're joining us and you're not familiar with what the hotline is, right? So, like Kimberly said, East Los Angeles Women's Center was started 48 years ago. It's completely a grassroots movement, and it actually established the first bilingual crisis hotline to help women who had been impacted by domestic violence and sexual assault. So of course we've definitely evolved, and incorporated a lot of new programs and different things as we move forward through time. And so initially, yes, it was definitely for females because we knew that the call was huge, right? But that being said, we serve all genders. We are an inclusive agency, so the hotline is not just limited to females, it's for any individual that's been impacted by sexual assault, domestic violence, and we provide emotional support. We provide a space for anybody that is looking for any type of resources, and ultimately we link them to services through our agency. And if we don't have it within our agency, we definitely locate a place for that individual to be able to receive the services that they're looking for. So it's a very, I agree with you 100%. They are definitely the heart and soul of the agency, right? That hotline is 24/7. There's no rest. Somebody always has to be available to answer it, and it's a privilege to be a part of that program that trains. And it's also a privilege to be able to meet so many different people from so many different walks of life that want to offer their free time to be able to be there to help others. So thank you so much, Davika, Jacqueline, and of course to you, Kimberly, for taking that on and for being there, because I know even though you're a program coordinator, I know you are answering that hotline as well.
It is. And you know what, Danny? I was a volunteer back in 2019. And like any other volunteer that, I've met, I wanted to give back. I wanted to give back to the community. I didn't know what I was signing myself up for. If I'm completely honest, it is an eye opener. It taught me how to be empathetic. It brought me on a long journey. As much as I gave, I received so much more. And come now 2024, I coordinate, so it's really crazy for me, right, to be that coordinator now. I understand what my mentor does, right, or did in that position, and it's fulfilling. It really is, to bring people together. Like you said, they all are different. They come from different walks, right? And but they all come for the same purpose. It's to learn, to grow, to give, to volunteer their free time. Like you said, it's amazing that people want to do that, right? That think about others, that make that space. And it's about being there for our survivors. Jackie was what, fall? We said fall 2019. So I wanted to ask Jackie, how has that been? How has your, going from in the training and now does that look like to you?
I guess in a sense, like I think it's been fulfilling in many instances where like I think, especially me being a resident here in Boyle Heights, I just want to be able to give back to my community in any shape or way or form. I just think it's like important to, address this social issue as in like sexual violence and like the sexual abuse that it's affecting in communities, maybe in my community and other communities as well. I feel like this form of volunteering is a form of advocacy in some way, being able to help raise awareness and educating the community on how to identify sexual assault and finding ways to prevent it. So being able to just do it overall, I think it's just been really rewarding.
Yeah, it is. It's rewarding. A lot of people say, hey, like, we're having a crisis, but we're there to de escalate that crisis, right? Um, to give them those options of what's going to help them out. Um, I learned in my journey, right? It is fulfilling. Some people don't understand that, right? Like my family and my friends at first, it's our culture, right? That's like taboo to speak on. And my dad would be like, "Why are you leaving at midnight?" I'm like, "There's a survivor that needs me, and I'm on my way." Right? And that was me as I started, just like you and Danya as well, and Davika. You're on that journey of taking your training. You're what, 6 weeks in, and you're almost there. How does that feel to you, Davika?
So, when I first started, day one, week one, the first thought that occurred to me was, I'm not going to be able to do this. it's one thing to learn in theory and another thing to actually be able to answer a hotline call and be able to make the right call, the right judgment that these are the words you need to use to support the person calling you, right? And there's always that self-doubt that what if I say the wrong thing? But over the past 5 or 6 weeks, I think we just completed week 6, right? So over the past 6 weeks, I feel like I'm a little bit more confident, and I'm almost, getting that feeling that yes, I want to work already. I want to get into the field. I want to answer a call, right? Because there is so much need for it. We can't waste time anymore. So I'm really glad that I joined when I did, and I wish I had done it earlier.
And it's something that I was taught. It's this training we have it each year, either fall and spring, right? And people schedule timing work. Sometimes it doesn't, it does. It's just you can't fit it in, right? But then I've learned that this journey comes to you when it's your time, when it's the right time for you. As much as we would like to pile everything on and add something because we want to get back, this training really comes to you in your right time. So I always thought about it like that, and I learned that with time that it does, because then it just kind of shifts you to that. All right, I am an advocate. I'm taking my training. I'm preparing myself for that first call, and from that first call, I think everybody's nervous, but after that, they're like on it, right, Jackie?
That is so true. Yes, trust me, I was in the position all the time where I was just really, it was just really nerve-wracking because, like Vika said, like you don't know if you're gonna say the right thing or the wrong thing. So I was just really, really like, oh, okay, I don't know what to do. But even then, like if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to ask questions. Like even if they may sound like redundant, I think it's always important to always ask for help because through there, I feel like you just build trust and then you're able to engage in conversations thereon.
Danny, how's that first call? Do you remember after all the calls you've had now?
For
How's that?
me, I really started at kind of like an extraordinary time. I had known about East Los Angeles Women's Center for a few years. I was fortunate enough to see a presentation done by Thelma, who runs the HIV prevention department there at the main office. She did something at Cal State LA. And so I wanted to join, but for whatever reason I couldn't. So I say all of that to say I ended up being able to do the program during COVID because, as we know, the world stopped, and so I could dedicate the time. And so my training was unique because it was the first cohort that was done completely on Zoom. Um, and although I know it's an excellent platform to be able to train people, and it allows for so many for a large group to come together and really offset some of the barriers like transportation, maybe working at 6 and driving an hour to get to the location, right? Anyways, when I answered the call, I was nervous because I had only ever been doing the training over Zoom. But it's like Jacqueline said, like everything like kicked in. Everything that I had learned in the training really prepared me. And what I mean by that, it's like you really do, and Davika, please feel free to jump in because I know you're freshly doing this, but you really understand the person that is on the other line, right? You might not really know the exact experience, right? Each experience is going to be unique, but there is a commonality that we see with people that have been impacted by SA or DV, and you learn that. You learn that during the training. You're being challenged to maybe thoughts that you've had about the issue. You're being challenged, but not in a way that is opposing, but rather like opens you up, right? You're looking at it from a different perspective. And so all of that really comes together, and you're really just able to be there, right? So I, I really, what I really, what stood out to me was how much listening is necessary and how much my silence matters, right? And in that moment, it's really about providing a space so that that person is able to release everything that they need to, right? And then from there, being able to assess, okay, is this just like you need that crisis intervention, or do we need to offer you resources, services? Is this somebody that is interested in what we're offering, or do I need to pitch you somewhere else, right? And it can be overwhelming and scary, but what I do know about our program is that we offer a variety of resources, right? So as an advocate, I wasn't just there by myself on my own trying to have it like figure it out. I had a really big thick book of resources that's like broken down by category, it's broken down by zip code, it's broken down by gender. And so I could always pull from that, right? And then ultimately, if they needed to be referred into our agency, I could always do that. So it was intense. It was nerve wracking. I don't want to dismiss that because it does happen, but I loved it. And it's a very odd thing to say, but I think Davika, Kimberly, and even Jacqueline, you may feel the same way, right? We're here and we love what we're doing, even if we're just in the learning process, because we know that we're going to take a person to a place that they really need to go, but with respect to their culture, respect to their capacity, and respect to their own experience. So yes, it's been a pleasure to be able to help community, and it's also been um, it's also been a growing and learning experience. And each year that goes by, I like fine tune my skill. I'm able to really identify how I can really assist a person um, better than I have before, right? Not to say that I wasn't previously, but I'm fine tuning the skill and I'm learning. And it's all an interconnectedness. So it's really unique how having our advocates from different walks of life, like Davika, I know that you're a professor, and Jacqueline, I know that you were in our HIV prevention department before, and I know that you're going to school. And all of that really, really comes together and is able to supply the people utilizing the hotline with what they need. So yeah, it's been great. What about you, Kim? How did that feel?
I had my whole desk laid out with all my resources, and it wasn't, when you think about domestic violence, sexual assault, you think of the worst. And I thought that was gonna be that, that call where there's something that I couldn't do, but the training really prepared me to be like, okay, you need this, and that, right? But it kind of clicks in. It's nerve wracking, but as soon as I answered, I was like, "Hi, this is Kimberly from the East LA Women's Center. How can I help you?" The same as when my first hospital accompaniment, they said, "Hey, female." I think she was like 20 at the time, and I went, and I was just like, I'm ready, I'm prepared, I have my bag, and I was there throughout the whole process, and I said, I love this. Like you said, it's a weird and odd feeling to say, but I love that I could be there for that survivor. um Her mom was there too, but and it's advocacy for both, and it's emotional support. That's what's needed, right? I know that you both mentioned like you're scared of saying the wrong thing, but it's not the wrong thing when you're providing that emotional support. It's not the wrong thing with your handing out a resource or saying, hey, East LA Women's Center provides these kind of services, right? So it's not wrong. It's just kind of just letting the nerves go and then going with the flow. Like me, I am not tech savvy. I don't do lives. I'm not a social media person, and I felt like that. I really felt like, oh my gosh. But it's then I thought, okay, if I could present, if I could show up to hospitals, if I answer a hotline call and I get over that, I could go through with this. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a journey.
This
So
is
Miss
also.
Allen,
Oh,
go for
sorry.
it.
Go ahead.
No, no, go
Um,
for it. Go for it.
I was gonna say this is also my first Instagram live, and I was a bit nervous that, oh my God, what am I gonna say? And now I feel okay and comfortable. And I wanted to say something to what Daniela said, that this training opens you up with in a way that you don't expect, and that really resonated with me because I like to think of myself as a very open-minded person, and which I think I am, but yet there were some things that were pushing my boundaries a little bit, some things that were triggering me, and um, so I remember the training, the workshop on human trafficking, and it was, I didn't realize how I was responding because the next few days I was really in a bad mood, right? And then I realized that it's just I was feeling the emotions, that how can people do this to others, right? But then in the training, um, we also learned that those who do this might have also come from a background where they experienced different kinds of violence, right? So um, I think what I'm learning the most here is that going in with an open mind for both the harm doer and the survivor is very important, because a lot of times survivors are not willing to leave the situation yet, and you can't tell them that, why are you still with this person, right? And just have to meet them where they are. And as you were saying, that Daniela, that that space, that silence, for them to be able to be heard, that's very important, because in most abusive relationships, or in situations of abuse, uh, victims lose their voices, right? And so creating that space is of utmost importance.
Absolutely. Thank you, Davika. And I think it leads perfectly into, I do see this question that Alex posed here. She says, this week is Public Health Week. What does this mean for you as a sexual assault advocate? So I'm a public health major. Kim, I know you're a sociology major, super similar. Davika, you're a professor, and Jacqueline, I know you're in school and you did HIV prevention, which is also public health. So I'll say my part, and then I'll popcorn to all of you so you can speak. But sexual assault, right? It's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and it definitely is a public health problem. Not just the directness of it, right? Somebody being violated, their body being violated without any regard to their humanity. That in of itself, that trauma can impact somebody their entire life. But it doesn't stop there, right? It impacts all dimensions of their life. It's going to impact if they have children. It's going to impact where they live. It's going to impact their basic needs. So there's so much that there's so many ways that violence can be incredibly harmful to individuals. And so that's how I relate sexual assault to the advocacy that I do. And it's incredibly important for me as an advocate, because despite being an employee of the agency and despite my title, at the end of the day, that's what I consider myself, is an advocate, right? And so what that means for me is that I am creating a bridge to a service that is available. So much of what I know from just my educational background is that there's all of these resources available, but there is barriers that prevent people from learning about what's out there, or from being able to apply. And there's all of these challenges, right? They might not be able to read, they might not be able to write, they might not speak English. They may be undocumented, they may be scared. And so all of these things are basically preventing them from being linked to a service that can essentially provide relief and ultimately change their life path for the more positive. So being able to be a bridge for individuals is what it means for me in the sense of public health, right? It's like, I just want you to know that this exists, and I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to get you linked to it. And then ultimately, in the long run, it's a very honest conversation of really looking at looking at the whole with critical feedback, but knowing that I'm trying to look for a solution, right? So it's understanding like what are the pros, what are the cons, what can be improved, what worked, what didn't work, and then hopefully achieving that over like the long term of my career, right? Whether I stay at this like very grassroots level or I move forward, right? Either way, it's just really understanding like what else can be done. And then the really exciting part is I'm an older lady. I'm in my 40s. I know that's not that old, but I'm super excited to see what all of the like the younger generations, right? Technology, we talk a lot about that. Like, what does that look like? What does that look like for interventions? What does that look like to providing services for survivors, right? To providing people that are like immediately impacted. So yeah, that's how I see it when it comes to public health. So I'll pitch it to Ms. Devika, and then you pitch it forward to the next person.
Okay. So when I think of mental health, when it comes to survivors of abuse, um, I think, again, going back to that piece of creating space, and then also making the first step, I think, is to creating that feeling of safety as well,
Mm.
right? That I think many survivors think that they did something wrong. That mental dialogue that I did something wrong. I should have said something else. I should have done something else, right? And so I think the second step is to create that space or that safety feeling that no, you didn't do anything wrong. This could have happened to anybody. Um, that I think goes a long way into helping someone get from where they're feeling, how they're feeling, to a point where they stop blaming themselves, right? I think that transition is very important. And I don't know why I'm having this feeling of deja vu. I feel like I've talked about this before. So it's I think that is a big part that society as a whole can do, and especially advocates, that that you didn't do anything wrong, right? um, I think that goes a long way into helping a survivor feel stable and supported. And I'm going to pitch it to Jackie.
Okay, so I am a little bit unaware of public health, but actually majoring in social work. So I feel like I know it had nothing to do with the question, but I feel like relatively speaking, I think it has a lot to do of being able to let them know that the choice that they do matters. Like it's up to them. Like the choice is to for them. I think often it's just always about listening to their feelings because maybe on their end they feel like no one's there to validate them, no one's there to listen to them. But us as advocates, we're there to lend the ear. We're there to emotionally support them, and I think that at the end, like a lot of it has to do with support and being able to remind myself and them that it's up to them whatever they decide. So really, again, I think it's all about being able for support and talk it out through the whole process for them, being able to find the available resources for them.
Yeah, and I'll pay off of that. I think it's more, it's right, our slogan, when your where your silence is heard, and it's we really hear them, right? If it's it's helping them get to that place where they feel safe. If it's creating an emergency plan, if it's getting them, I like that analogy. I'll bring it back to what Daniela said, was that it's a bridge. We're creating a bridge, and I didn't never thought about that because it's so many obstacles, right? Of them not knowing. Like me, I knew places like this existed. I didn't know they were this close, right? I didn't know all the, you think about human trafficking, sexual assault, domestic violence, you don't know how close it is to you, if it's personal, if it's, within your friends. So when I got here, I'm like, there's so many resources. There's so many things out there that can help, right? So when I think about that, it's like, gosh, it's bigger than I thought. It's an eye opener. It's wanting me to, change the world, but I learned quickly that It doesn't work like that. It's about giving that person that didn't have a choice all these options. Is that person that didn't have a voice, make their voice be loud and clear, right? It's hearing them out. It's if it's even having a conversation, if it's by providing that resource, it's by providing that kind of, how would I say it? It's just that space that you give them, right? It's so important. Just emotional support, just to know that, hey, I wear my advocacy role hard, and I work hard for them, so they're able to get to that space where you say, I learned about my triggers. I know what my boundaries are. I know that I have options out there. I know that I can leave this relationship. I know that there's a place for me where I'm gonna be safe, right? Um, so that's kind of what it means to me. That, but I know I just keep thinking like a bridge, like we're that bridge, we're that, we make a connection and they grow from that. If it's when they're ready, if it's now, if it's future, but they will cross it and they will make it to the other side. So that's pretty neat that you said
I,
that.
I want to add one more thing to what you said. And, so we do create that bridge. And then this also speaks to the longer term effects, right? Because mental health, it's not a one day thing, it's not an event. It's, it's growth, it's longer run, right? And so, you know, a lot of times survivors lose their confidence, right? And I think this is something that was brought up in the training as well, that you lose the confidence, and because you've lost that power of making choices. So this ties kind of with women or any kind of empowerment, right? That we give survivors resources and we slowly build their confidence back up again, so that they feel comfortable making choices for themselves. And I think that goes a long way into building up that safety and better mental health.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's empowering. That's part of our campaign for the Sexual Assault Awareness Month, right? It's red lips, hoops on, and being invincible and feeling invincible, taking that power and control. Culturally, it's always been, red lips are not appropriate. Big hoops, it's not okay, right? Of all the negative things that they say, right? Um, and we're taking our power back, and we're like, nope, and it's not like that. And I feel invincible where I wear my red lipstick, Ruby Woo from MAC, because it makes me feel powerful, right? It gives me some kind of like to be like, all right, I got this. So we're having our different events, and I'm excited to wear it because it makes me happy. I'm like a red lips hoop type of girl, so um I'll share this. Even when my dad was like, kind of like, he's, old school Mexican, just kind of like looking at me like, you don't think that's too red? I'm like, no, dad. It is me. And it is I'm a middle child, so you already know I had a middle child syndrome. So I will stare it and I will say, no, dad, this is powerful to me. Like, I love it. It's not because I degrading myself. I am not, whatever negative things come with it. I am not that. I am powerful. I am standing my ground against it. And, this is the great thing about this campaign that, we're 3 years on. We have a new face for it. If you haven't seen the new face for Vanessa, she's all plastered on our ELAWC social media. So take a look. It's great. It's a great thing that we're doing. Right, Danny?
Yes, yes. So if you're not familiar with the campaign, right, it's red hoops, or I'm sorry, red lips, gold hoops. And it's basically challenging that stereotype that if you wear red lipstick and if you're rocking gold hoops, then, you're probably a lady of the night or something like that. And we're saying, like, no, it doesn't matter what we dress, it doesn't matter what we wear, it doesn't matter what color of lipstick we have on, it doesn't matter that we have hoops. Um, we are allowed to be the way that we want to be and not have to experience any type of sexual violence, right? It does not define who I am, and it doesn't justify And we're going to take it a step further and we're going to say, in fact, when we got our red lipstick on and our we feel invincible and we feel powerful, right? Because that's really what it's about. Nobody deserves to experience any harm or violence because of the way they look. It's not an excuse and it's not a justification. So, yeah, it's powerful. And I'm excited that we are at the beginning of that month and we are going, so we're doing lives. I know we have a lot of campus events. We'll have events within our volunteer program, right? And then, of course, the agency. So we'll be everywhere. So Alex is saying what I remember, or no, I'm sorry, not Alex, but Sherry says, I remember feeling broken from an abusive relationship, getting help and resources helped me regain my self-confidence. Wow, that's beautiful, Sherry. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's really what it's about, right? That's what we're here for, um, is to be able to provide that service, to provide that resource. And then of course we do offer our therapeutic services, right? So that we can help um, our clients or anybody that reaches out to us get to a space where they're able to be their best self. So Ms. Davika and Jacqueline, how well, Davika, I know that you're in training and you're going to get ready to be answering hotline and doing hospital accompaniments, but um, to any future contemplating volunteers out there, what would you say? You think has your experience been enjoyable and is it pretty doable? And how do you feel about what you've learned and how you've interacted with us so far?
This is for Jackie, right? Because
Well, we can start off with Jackie and then you because you're in training, so you can speak to like what does that look like, right? What does that look like so far? So, of course, to preface it a little bit more, like we, Kimberly and I, we do run this volunteer program, and we're always looking for anybody that's interested in helping answering the hotline and doing crisis calls. And I think when you hear it like that, it can sound overwhelming. But just more of like, what does that experience look like, Jackie? I know that you answer the hotline. I know that you've gone to the hospital. But how does that look like for you? Like, is it doable? What is your shifts? Can you talk about like the time that you give? Just a little bit more specifics.
yeah, of course, no worries. So, thankfully, I thank Kim because she's very, very communicative. Like, we don't lose communication. Like, even if she's there, like, at 2 in the morning, I'm there texting her, like, for hospital accompaniments. It's really doable to schedule, really. They go to your schedule. So I really appreciate that on your guys' end. And I've done 2 start accompaniments so far. And yeah, they've been around midnight. Maybe I've been there maybe 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, the latest. And
Almost
well,
three,
I've
almost
done,
three, because you
yeah,
checked
almost
in
3.
with me. She's like, I'm already done the survive. Like, she is the advocate that would tell me, my ETA, I'm here, I'm doing this. And she's like, I'm leaving. I think it was like almost 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it because at the end we're there for the survivor, I'm really there to, I had this instance where at the end of the accompaniment, it was really unexpected because the survivor just hugged me at the end of the whole exam, and I really got off guard, and in the sense of like I didn't expect it, and well, I hugged her back and I let her know that I believe you, it's not your fault, I'm here for you, whatever you need, and I appreciate you coming in here because it's really an important step for them in the healing process. So overall, it's really, really, rewarding and like the hotlines wise, I'm there mainly in the mornings. I feel like that's where you get the most calls during the morning. So I try to make myself as available as possible, just to be there.
Yeah, and she's pretty great. I'm telling you, she checks in with me like, can I do it? Did I do everything right? Can I do something else? And I'm like, no, like you've done everything you can. And yeah, having you, Jackie, I was telling Alex if she's here, she's listening. I'm like, I'm so proud of her. She's doing so good, right? Everybody has that to start. They need that little push. That's why I say I'm gonna communicate. I am gonna be on you. I am gonna be the person you want to debrief. My rule is do not text me after 10. Call me, because I'm sleeping, right? I like to make that connection with the volunteers, because as much as I had it when I was doing it, I knew that I wanted to be that same person for the future volunteers. Um, Opening up that space, right? Feeling comfortable with me, debriefing, is so important. Like you said, you were caught off guard with the hug, and every case is different. It's a different scenario. But I know when we leave, they're really thankful for us for being there. Because they might be alone. They might be, like mentioned before, self-blaming, and that's really tough on someone, right? Where they're like, I should have not been out. I should have known better. But it's like you don't know, right? You go out, you're living life, and unfortunately this happened, but that's not gonna label you. You will not be labeled. You will get your power back. We will support you. I am here for you. And I think that's what makes a difference. That's why I say the volunteers are really the heart of the East LA Women's Center. You're making a difference. You're giving them power, empowering them with the resources, the services, the tools, the knowledge, and that's a great thing. And you know, I can only expect to help you grow in that journey. It's a long journey. Like Daniela says, we're learning. We're learning all the time in order for to make that little difference in the world. But Davika, I know you're in that training, right? To get through that journey, and you'll see what's the real deal. And I'll get that call, and I know because I get it from all the advocates. They'll be like, I'm nervous, but then I want to remind you here, it's that you have me, you have Danny, you have our community of the East LA Women's Center. You can come in, and we that's a great thing. We're like a family, right? Where we support each other, where we understand each other. Like I joke around and I say, if I had a tough call, nobody else will understand me if I call Daniela, right? Or Sonia, which is my program director. Or just someone in the office will understand what I'm feeling or thinking. So yeah, you're gonna be there, Davika. But how has that journey been? Week 6 weeks in, going into the seventh week. How does your journey look like?
So, it to be very honest, I did not know what I was going into. I just knew that this is something I want to do. I'm going to sign up for this, and I had literally no idea of what this entailed. And so far, we've heard from all people from all kinds of backgrounds: law enforcement, district attorneys, people who work with the East LA Women's Center, either as sexual assault advocates or domestic violence advocates. And then we've heard from men, their perspective, and then we've also heard from the LGBTQI A plus community, right? And it's so I'm trying to organize my thoughts on this because I've really not I didn't sit down and think about this other than what what we were being taught. So uh, what I'm noticing in myself is that I do a lot of reflection. So all these things that we learn, it makes me question my own assumptions, how I'm showing up. It makes me think about my my own identity. I remember this workshop where we were being taught about cultural differences and cultural approaches to violence, right? How culture can perpetuate or mitigate violence, and how culture sees violence, right? So that really pushed my boundaries a lot because I grew up in India where sexual violence is quite prevalent. And it made me think of some of my own behaviors that still persist especially when I go back to India and when I interact with Indian men. And so this whole training has really been an exercise in reflection, besides, of course, the fact that my earphones falling, keep falling. Besides being, a place where I am learning more, I am learning how to help people who are in abusive relationships, abusive situations, and how to support them and, be that bridge, right? So, and then in terms of time commitment, it's like, I feel like I'm kind of getting used to it to the point that I'm going to miss it. So every Monday, Wednesday, 6 to 9:30, sometimes I feel like, oh, I can't do this today. My brain is too tired from the day's work. But the minute we start to hear from the speaker, I'm completely zoned in, right? I don't think I've been this attentive even in my classes when I was a student, right? And this diligent in taking notes and reading them and reflecting on them. It just feels so important to me, and I feel really privileged to be able to, give back to the community in this way, because this topic is very close to my heart, very close.
Well, I know you have a long day because you're a professor. So when I first met you, I thought she is so interesting, and I think we had a conversation for our brunch where you said, "I get so angry," and I said, "We, I do too, because we're human and we have emotions, and I think we challenge that, and we have to use that for a better purpose, right? And redirect that to be like." I will give, my power, and I will share it around to empower other women and not be angry, but to make that change. And that's the commitment. That's when your really commitment comes through. When you're tired and you sit down and it's 6 o'clock and we're like, all right, it's ready to go, right? We had days where it's double presenters. There's days where we go straight through it. And so I know I've had that. I know Danny probably felt the same way, especially where if she's part of that cohort where, COVID shut everything down, but it didn't shut down our survivors. It didn't stop our hotline. Our hotline was really high. Why? Because our survivors were still in their domestic violence homes. They couldn't leave. They had to be there, and the world stopped, and unfortunately it stopped for them there, but we were there to pick up those calls. Even if the hospital shut down, we were still answering because I was picking up those calls, right, for the hospital and being like, I am your advocate. I am through the phone, but I am here. I know I did my last accompaniment um that week that is shut down, where we got the date. I believe it was in March that everything shut down. Yeah, I remember, and I'm like, because they made me go around and their temperature, where I used to get out through the side door, and then the procedure changed. And then I said, oh my God, what are these survivors going to do? But we figured it out. We said, all right, we'll pick up by the phone. And yeah, it was 4 in the morning, different times, and I was like, I'm your advocate and I'm here, and I know I'm on the phone, but we're not giving up. We're rolling with the punches of timing and COVID and all of this, but we work. We make it work. We always make it work here at the East LA Women's Center, right, Danny? There's always
That's right.
something.
That's right. That's right. We do. And I think a lot of it has to do with like our own personal motivation of like why we do this, right? Like Davika, I heard you were saying where you come from, your homeland, your nation, right? There's a lot of gender-based violence, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with your personal motivation. For me, it's always been my mom, right? I remember being I remember her needing services, and there was a lot of extraordinary people along our life that were able to provide those types of services, that type of bridge. And so, despite how tired I can be, or despite how frustrated I can be, or even how sad I can get, I always remember like at the end of the day, it's really not about me. It's about that person that I'm assisting, and I pull from remembering how somebody helped us, how they made a difference in my mother's life, and how I'm able to be here in this position and give it back. And it really is what fuels me. So I'm just curious, Jackie, I don't think I've had this conversation with you, but what motivated you to join the Volunteer Advocate Program?
I think uh, I think the reason why I joined was mainly because I care. I really want to give back to my community. I want to be a resource in my community, be able to act as a guide. And I've had a couple of family members and friends that have gone through situations like this. So for me, in the top of my head, I was like, what can I do that I could, or find ways to give back or to help? And honestly, I didn't even know about the East LA Women's Center until I did my internship with the family law organization, and that's how I heard from East LA. And like again, I think it goes back to like not a lot of people know about the resources that are out there. So really, it was just about like I'm a person, I'm a human, and I want to help in any way that I can. So really, that was just the motivation for me is to give back and help.
Really well said. And what about you, Miss Vika? I know we're coming to the end, so I want to give these words of encouragement and inspirations so that we can inspire others to do what we do.
Absolutely. So for me, as you mentioned that it's quite a bit to do with the violence that I've seen in my country, where I grew up, and it's also what I've experienced myself. So um, I think I think majority of the women in India, they experience some kind of sexual harassment on a daily basis, right? There's also that patriarchal dominance. Um, I remember when I was in college, we had restrictions on when we have to come back to our dorms, and and even then, even if we came back at the right time, that we were always scared that what if on the way something happens to us, right? And when we were standing in waiting for public transportation, there were men who would look at us like we were meat or something, right? And it made us extremely uncomfortable, and I hated that feeling, right? And that kind of always was in my mind in the background. And so initially when I came to the US for my graduate studies, um, that was one of the feelings, one of the most important, or one of the feelings that I remember most, that I feel free. And so that inspired me to learn a little bit more, and I started my research. I study domestic violence and sexual violence. My research is focused in that area, and I kept just diving more and more into it. And then and then but you still keep hearing these stories that what happens to people all around the world, what happens to women. And I read about how sexual violence is often used by political parties, or infiltrators from one country to another, as a mode of dominating one group, right? So just to maintain power. And I can just go on and on about that, but I mean, just to wrap it up, uh, I started to feel that I need to actually be on the ground and help. And even if it's one person at a time, right? Just to be there for someone who needs this, someone who needs a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a hand holding, so that they can come into being their own person. They don't feel like they're a second class citizen, right? So that's what motivated me.
Beautifully said, Davika. Thank you so much. Thank you to you and to Miss Jackie. And then, of course, Miss Kimberly, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, you're amazing. You provide support 24/7. You're always there for not just the advocates, but even myself. I know, like, I've been in it for a while, but I still call you up and, and debrief. So,
It's nice.
um,
It's nice. And Danny, if I may share, so Danny we just started working together, right? We've been part of the sexual assault department, but now we're like hand in hand. And I never understood, and I'm like, Danny comes on strong and she's fiery. And until we had the conversation, she's like, I and I give back as much as how her mom received her and her family at that time, and I understood, and I'm like, that's that's true advocacy. That's giving back. It's It's the rewards that she received at that time that she's now giving back to our community, and that's how we're getting involved. And I believe, like, it was mentioned before, our youth are, I see my daughter, I have a 9-year-old, and I am going to teach her all I know, right? She knows her capacity, what I do, and she's out passing cards. If there's an event, she will do it, and she'll be a future volunteer because we have to keep the movement going. We've been, it's East LA Women's Center has been on for 48 years, and it will continue. It continues because of this volunteer training of these people that want to join together and come and advocate for our survivors, whether there's hospital accompaniment, that hotline call, the police station, court. They do it free, willingly, and it's a great journey, and it's a great reward when you hear sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking. It impacts you, but then you take this training and it makes a difference in your life. It's an eye opener. And I want to thank each and one of you, for joining me on my journey, right? Because now it's my journey is very different, and I want to invite everyone that's looking out there, keep on fighting, make that fight for us. I know if I'm not wrong, our VOCA rally is April 30th. Danny, if I'm not wrong. Um, so let's rally up so we continue to have those services for our survivors, those advocates out there, and keep on going with our rape crisis centers, right? But I do want to thank you. And gosh, we did it, Danny. I am so happy. We could power through this. Tamika, I know you work long. Jackie, I know you're such a good student. You're always, you're great at what you do. Um, I, this advocacy journey with you, Jackie's been great. And Davika, I have high expectations, right? Because I trained you. But no, because I know you have a lot to give. And Danny, you're my ride or die on this. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing work that we do here. But with that being said, you all have a great
I
night.
just want to say one
Go,
quick
go
thing.
for
I
it.
just love this community. I love my volunteers in training who are training with me. And I love everyone I've met so far through this training. Both of you, you're amazing and very nice to me too, Jackie.
See you, Tamika.
I really am excited about this journey.
I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm excited to embark on this with all of you, and then we'll have a volunteer gathering, and then we'll all meet and and just and
We'll
keep
take it to the
running.
next level.
It's the next level for us. That's what me and Danny have said. It's the next level with our volunteer group. But with that, have a great night.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you. It was nice
Bye.
Bye.
seeing you, Danila. Bye, Kim.